Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of James Kraig Kahler? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing about in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoy this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. James Kraig Kahler was born on January 15, 1963 in Topeka, Kansas. He was raised in nearby Meriden, Kansas, after his family moved there when he was in first grade. He went by the name Kraig. He graduated from high school in 1981 and went to a college in Kansas to study electrical engineering. While he was there, Kraig started dating a woman named Karen, who was 2.5 years younger than him. They married on December 28, 1985, which was around the same time that Kraig graduated from college. Kraig's first job after college was at a nuclear power plant in Colorado, so the couple moved there. They would later move to Texas and Oklahoma for other jobs. The couple went on to have 3 children, Emily in 1991, Lauren in 1993, and Sean in 1999. During the same year that Sean was born, Kraig took a job in Weatherford, Texas, which is about a half-hour west of Fort Worth. He was the director of the Public Utilities Department. Karen eventually found work as a personal trainer. In July 2008, Kraig moved to Columbia, Missouri, to accept a new job as the director of Water and Light for the city. Not long before he moved, Karen approached him with a curious request. She told him that she was interested in experimenting romantically. She wanted to engage in a sexual relationship with a woman named Sunny Reese, who was also a personal trainer. They worked together. Kraig initially approved the affair. He believed that it would end when Karen and the children moved to be with him in Missouri. Karen and the 3 children moved to Missouri in August 2008, but not surprisingly, the relationship between Karen and Sunny continued to shine. Kraig was furious. To him, it was like sunstroke. Kraig and Karen traveled back to Weatherford, Texas at the end of 2008 and attended a New Year's Eve party at the home of former neighbors. At that party, Kraig became embarrassed because Karen and Sunny were flirting with each other and making physical contact. He and his wife argued and allegedly engaged in a shoving match. People at the party described it as awkward. Kraig offered his wife Karen an ultimatum. She was going to have to choose between him or Sunny. He was trying to block out the sun. The next day, January 1, 2009, Karen made her decision. She told Kraig that their marriage had reached a sunset. She filed for divorce a few weeks later. In March, Karen filed a complaint against Kraig for battery. The police arrested Kraig in the middle of a city council meeting, which caused him a great deal of embarrassment. The couple had been involved in some type of altercation. Kraig said that he simply hugged Karen. Karen said it was an attack. Not long after Kraig's arrest, Karen and the children moved out of the residence where Kraig lived. Kraig did not cope very well with being rejected romantically. At work, he frequently talked about the failure of his marriage. He would show his coworkers a photo album containing images of his family and say things like, "Do they look unhappy to you?" Kraig's work performance decreased dramatically, and the city fired him. Kraig ended up moving to his parents' ranch in Meriden, Kansas. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. In late November 2009, Kraig's son Sean visited the ranch in Meriden, Kansas, as Karen and her 2 daughters traveled to a relative's home about 160 miles away. Karen intended on picking up Sean in Topeka on Saturday, November 28. She picked Topeka instead of Meriden because she was worried about her safety. She was concerned that Kraig could be violent. Karen was going to take Sean to her grandmother's house in Burlingame, Kansas, which is about 30 miles south of Topeka. The name of Karen's grandmother was Dorothy White. On Saturday morning, Sean called Karen and asked if he could stay at the ranch with his father, Kraig. Sean was having fun hunting and fishing. Karen denied the request, so Kraig drove Sean to meet with Karen in Topeka. When Karen arrived at the designated pickup location, her affair partner Sunny was in the vehicle, along with the children. Karen picked up Sean without incident, and they made their way to the home of Dorothy White in Burlingame as planned. Between 5:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. on the same day, November 28, a neighbor of Dorothy White called the police and reported a man in a red Ford Explorer near her home. She thought that the man may be engaging in criminal activity. This Ford Explorer belonged to Kraig Kahler. At about 6 p.m., Kraig entered Dorothy White's house through the back door, carrying a Mac 90 rifle loaded with .223 Remington cartridges. He encountered his 44-year-old wife Karen and his 10-year-old son Sean standing at the kitchen sink cleaning coins. Kraig shot Karen twice, and she fell to the kitchen floor. He exited the kitchen without attempting to harm Sean and went after other people in the house. Kraig shot 89-year-old Dorothy White one time in the abdomen. He shot his 18-year-old daughter Emily twice and his 16-year-old daughter Lauren twice. As this was happening, Sean exited the house out of the back door and made his way to a neighbor's residence. The neighbor called the police. Also, the police were notified through Dorothy White's life alert system. The system recorded audio and captured events in the house. When the police arrived, they found Karen on the kitchen floor. She was barely breathing and unconscious. Emily was dead on the living room floor. Dorothy was sitting in a chair in the living room. She was still conscious but gravely wounded. Lauren was found upstairs. She was conscious but having trouble breathing. Both Dorothy and Lauren told first responders that Kraig had shot them. Later that evening, Karen and her daughter Lauren died from the gunshot wounds they had sustained. Dorothy White died 3 days later on December 1 from the single gunshot wound. The police were unable to find Kraig that night, but after he was spotted walking down a road the next morning, the police were able to arrest him without incident. Kraig was charged with murder. He went on trial in 2011. On August 25, 2011, he was convicted of capital murder. In October of that same year, he was sentenced to death. At the time making this video, Kraig is in prison awaiting his sentence after an unsuccessful appeal. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. There is no question that Kraig Kahler was guilty of the murders. His blood was found in Dorothy White's house. A jacket with his business card in the pocket was found outside of her house. 3 witnesses identified him as the killer: his son Sean, his daughter Lauren, and Karen's grandmother Dorothy. A red Ford Explorer was spotted at the scene. This is the same type of vehicle that Kraig owned. In his Ford Explorer, the police found .223 Remington ammunition, which was the same type of ammunition used in the murders. They also found maps, camping equipment, a suitcase containing money, and trail mix. This makes it seem like Kraig was going to engage in a trail mix-fueled escape adventure after the murders. Item number 2. A key issue that has been debated in this case is how the relationship between Karen and Sonny started. Was it Karen's idea? Was it Sonny's idea? Perhaps Kraig asked Karen to find a lover for a threesome, as some have suggested. Based on the evidence that's available, I believe that Karen introduced the idea of having an affair to Kraig. There is no evidence indicating that Kraig suggested this idea. Kraig granted Karen permission after she approached him with the idea. I think he was curious and excited about the prospect initially, but then Kraig desperately wanted the affair to end once he realized it was a threat to his marriage. Once Sonny was in the picture, she just wouldn't give up. Sonny engaged in behavior that could be viewed as unhelpful and maybe even antagonistic. A few examples. Sonny was advised by friends to leave Karen and Kraig alone, yet she still made a scene at the New Year's Eve party at the end of 2008. Witnesses testified that Karen and Sonny were inappropriate at the party. In January 2009, Sonny sent an email to Karen about how to divorce a narcissist. Again, Sonny appeared to be quite active in trying to end the marriage between Kraig and Karen. Around the same time, she sent a text message to Kraig saying, quote, "She doesn't want to be with you, not like you think," unquote. It appears as though when Kraig became upset about the affair, Sonny used his behavior as justification for the affair. This is an illogical way to view the situation. Sonny claimed that she encouraged Karen to divorce Kraig for Karen's own safety, but clearly Sonny had something to gain romantically by doing that. Even though Kraig was responsible for his own behavior in this case, I think it is reasonable to believe that he would not have committed the murders if Sonny had simply respected his marriage and stayed away from Karen. Sonny's behavior clearly had an impact on Kraig. It was on his mind. For example, before his sentencing, when Kraig was seated at the defense table, he muttered something like, "It was a beautiful sunny day outside." Item number 3. Karen may have been looking for an affair because there was no romance in her marriage and because Kraig was controlling. The couple had sex 4 to 5 times a week, typically between 8:30 and 9:30 p.m. This was something that Kraig wanted and Karen tolerated. Friends were mortified to find out that Karen had sex with Kraig so frequently. She told them it just made life easier. After starting the affair, Karen described it as a reward for all the sex she had with Kraig. As far as the controlling behavior, Kraig was extremely tight with money and controlled Karen's spending behavior. He gave her an allowance and would review receipts to make sure she wasn't spending too much money. After Karen left Kraig, Kraig spied on her in a few different ways, including by gaining access to her email. Item number 4. What are the mental health and personality characteristics of James Kraig Kahler? Kraig received mental health assessments as part of the court proceedings. He was diagnosed with major depressive disorder. One clinician also diagnosed him with 3 personality disorders: obsessive-compulsive, narcissistic, and histrionic. Kraig's behavior does not appear to be consistent with histrionic, so that's a surprising diagnosis. Perhaps this was suspected because he wanted to be the center of attention, but just that one behavior is not enough for a person to be considered histrionic. A much better case could be made for obsessive-compulsive and narcissistic personality features. From obsessive-compulsive, Kraig was perfectionistic, he liked orderliness, he was a concrete thinker, and he was extremely rigid. As far as the narcissism, Kraig was self-centered, vindictive, pessimistic, and had a sense of entitlement. Item number 5. How would I conceptualize this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Kraig's combination of personality traits meant that his marriage with Karen was destined to fail. He wanted everything to be exactly his way and only thought of his own needs. He did not have insight or the ability to empathize with others. Kraig assumed that if he was getting his way, then his wife must be happy too. It never occurred to him that she was miserable. When Karen sought another lover, Kraig didn't recognize the threat until it was too late. After Karen filed for divorce, Kraig's emotional reaction caused him further problems, like the loss of his job. Now he was alone and worried about his finances. Kraig thought that he could win Karen back. He assumed that Karen left him because she found someone better than him, but he restricted his idea of the word better to mathematical elements. He thought that it was all about money and comfort. He earned $180,000 a year before he was fired, and he lived in a 4,300 square foot house. He would repeat these numbers to people and ask, "What more could I do?" Kraig could not understand what was happening, and he viewed himself as the victim. He started to think of his daughters as conspirators with his wife. For example, he referred to Emily as Little Karen. Kraig's obsessive-compulsive and narcissistic personality traits combined with depression and anxiety to put him in a dangerous state of mind. He believed that all was lost, and he might as well kill Karen and those who he thought conspired with her. This is why he did not kill his son, Sean. Kraig is now not only confined in prison awaiting execution, he is trapped in a world with a lot of self-pity and no remorse. In Kraig's mind, his actions were justified simply because of the mathematics behind marital satisfaction. The emotional component of decision-making was beyond his comprehension. Now moving to my final thoughts. For many years, Kraig was walking on sunshine as Karen was getting sunburned. After finding a ray of sunshine in the dark, Karen's mood was brighter than the sun. Kraig did not react to this news by having a sunny disposition. He went on a rampage that was nefarious and expansive. It was like an evil empire where the sun never sets. Those are my thoughts in the case of James Kraig Kahler. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comments section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.